Hey, my name's Riddle and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a subscriber. This video is going to be really specific and very serious, and I want to be able to articulate this without sounding histrionic or alarmist, but it is what it is, and I'm going to give you the facts and the story as I experienced it. If you live in Northern California or the North Central Coast, is specifically Santa Cruz County, and you spend time outdoors like many of us do, enjoying the beach and hiking, wild mushroom hunting, or even gardening, or even just walking your dog around, it's really important that you understand that ticks are a very serious and dangerous problem. Shockingly, the city of Santa Cruz and the health department and the local doctors are way behind on the truth about the statistical data of how many Lyme infected and other bacterial infected ticks there are in our area. It doesn't take but a quick Google search to find this out, and I learned this the hard way. I don't know for certain that I was infected by a local tick, but I've lived here almost 10 years. And in those 10 years, my health was spiraling terribly. I was having joint pain, horrible brain fog, and terrible chronic fatigue. And I would go to the specialist, the rheumatologist. They wouldn't find anything wrong. They would send me to the infectious disease doctor. They wouldn't find anything wrong. They would send me, oh, you're depressed. They would send me to a psychiatrist or psychologist. There's nothing wrong with you, Mr. Riddle. Why isn't someone helping you with these obviously physical sensations, physical suffering you're having? And then it was just this spiral. And this is really normal for a lot of people, more so now on the West Coast or Midwest. The East Coast is kind of caught up on the fact about the reality of Lyme disease, and especially neurological Lyme disease, once the bacteria has really taken hold in your body and started to do damage. So I went through this, and you have to understand, I wasn't just at local doctors. I was actually enrolled in the chronic fatigue clinic at Stanford. I was seeing an infectious disease doctor and was at Stanford, of all places, which should be like the gold stamp. You know, you think that they would be so thorough. So several years ago, all of a sudden, I was in so much pain. I was going to end my life. It was like every night I would wake up about 2 a.m. and felt like I was in a knife fight that didn't end for hours. And I went to the emergency room because I was in so much pain. And they, of course, checked me for everything and gave me some pain relief, and then sent me home. And this went on for 4 days until I manifested Bell's palsy. So I lost half the use of my face. And my arthritis was so bad, which there was no arthritis, I couldn't pick up a coffee cup. I had a fever. And they basically told me, oh, we can't figure out what's wrong with you. Bye-bye. Thanks for the 10 grand. This was at Dominican and the other little hospital over there. You know, we don't have a lot to choose from in Santa Cruz. And a couple months later, my spouse came home from volleyball and said, you know, this girl that I play volleyball with, she had Lyme disease, and these were her symptoms, and it sounds a lot like what you were going through. You know, did they check you for Lyme disease? And I'm like, you'd think they would have. I tell them how much time I spend outdoors. I've lived off the land, blah, blah, blah. So I called them, and sure enough, none of the doctors had ever checked me for Lyme disease. And the thing that's the most disheartening about this is the Bell's palsy and a lot of the symptoms I was having when I was in that emergency room, and there were these so-called ER doctors charging tens of thousands of dollars to treat me, that's all like a red flag neurological Lyme's disease stuff. So, sure enough, I got tested, and not only did I have Lyme disease, that it was neurological at that point, but my titer count, the amount of bacteria that was in my body, the doctor who was treating me, who had dealt with Lyme disease patients for like 30 years, had never seen a titer count or a bacteria count that high in a human body before. So this is where it gets even more disheartening. First of all, they don't do the CDC recommended treatment for neurological Lyme disease in our area, and they will not allow doctors to do it, which is a intravenous antibiotic, because the bacteria is a spirochete, which means it's shaped like a spiral, similar to syphilis, and it can hide in places in the body that medications can't get to. So if you're just exposed, let's say you're bit by a tick, even if you don't get the ring, just go get antibiotics. Go get the antibiotics. Urgent care will give them to you right away. Because only 30% of people will develop the ring. And I had been bit ticks all the time. I was pulling ticks off of me all the time, but I never got the ring, so I thought I was fine. So that's an important detail to know. You don't have to get the ring to get the bacteria or an infection. So back to, they're going to just give me basically the rheumatologist I went to at Dominican, who didn't believe the blood work from Stanford. So she ran all the same blood work to get the same result and said, "We will help you, Mr. Riddle, if indeed you have Lyme disease." And then after they saw that I had Lyme disease, she said, "I'm sorry, we can't help you, Mr. Riddle." Okay. Then I go back to Stanford, and Stanford said they don't treat Lyme disease. Even though it says on their website that they're doing research and treating Lyme disease, they say they're not treating Lyme disease. So what's happening in Santa Cruz County? What's happening in the Silicon Valley in regards to this Lyme disease thing? Okay, now I'm going to tell you more. So finally, this local doctor who treats Lyme disease did the best he could for me, being that they won't allow him to do the CDC recommended treatment. He gave me a nuclear dose of 2 different antibiotics, double the strength, because he knew that's the best I was going to get. But the fact is, there's no way of knowing if the bacteria was thoroughly killed in my body or not, because those antibodies are going to continue to present themselves. And so this is what happens to a lot of people who don't get the proper treatment, is that the bacteria can come back, of course, if it's hiding in the blood-brain barrier or other places in the body that the antibiotics can't reach. You know, we live in one of the most expensive places in the country, yet here we're getting substandard healthcare, and we're getting knowledge that is wrong. I called the health department downtown Santa Cruz, and this woman was so condescending to me. And she tried to tell me, "Oh, Mr. Riddle, Lyme disease is so rare here. You know, we go and we collect the ticks and measure them." And so again, she's saying what all the doctors are saying, is that Lyme disease is so rare in Santa Cruz County. But I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell you how I know the truth. First of all, our street that we lived on at that time had only 8 houses, and 5 or 6 of my neighbors had contracted Lyme disease, but they had it treated before it got to the point of, you know, being debilitating, unlike me. And the neighbor's dog had Lyme disease when I had Lyme disease, but she had puppies, so they couldn't treat her. And the phlebotomist who took my blood work to test me for Lyme disease, her husband worked outside and he had developed Lyme disease. If you stand in any crowd, I'd be at the pharmacy and bring it up. There was always at least 1 to 3 people that had known someone who has it, had it, or they themselves had it. So how can it be so rare in Santa Cruz County if this is like what I'm just picking up from talking to people? So this is where it gets even better. Now they know that not only are the ticks in the forests, but the ticks, they found a huge population of ticks, diseased ticks, waiting in the scrub brush at the beaches, that little patch of scrub you kind of walk through sometimes to get to the beach. So the ticks have populated there also. And just a couple weeks ago, an article came out, and this source said that indeed they have seen a 160 some percent increase in Lyme disease cases here in Santa Cruz County. And guess who the source was? Quest Labs. Quest Labs. So these are people that are asking for the test. These aren't people that are they're just finding it, anonymously. They have seen 160% increase. Can you imagine how many people are suffering and living with Lyme disease in our county untreated because of the misinformation that our local government and our local doctors are telling people? This is criminal. And then I'm going to go to the next place. So no one will treat me for Lyme disease. I finally find this doctor that will take pity on me and gives me a nuclear dose of 2 antibiotics. Then there's no type of rehabilitation. There's no type of support. You are literally just left to your own devices. And it's very dangerous and it's very painful because not only do you have brain damage, literally, but you can't even pick up a coffee cup or move because you have all of this damage done to your joints and sometimes your internal organs. And so I had to come up with a rehabilitation plan all on my own. And I had to literally find illegal drugs to get through the process, to do the mobility exercises and to rebuild my cognitive abilities, to heal my brain. And I had to do all of this by myself. Luckily, I have the intelligence, the resources, and the ability to do this. But do you know how many people are suffering in silence? Do you know how many people are becoming literally debilitated, unemployable because of the neglect and the ignorance in Santa Cruz County coming from the local government and the medical community? This is a very serious thing. So please share this with everybody. But mainly the reason I'm telling this story is, and I want to add one more part to this. So because my spouse works for Apple and I have excellent insurance, when I cannot get help, I have access to a advocate, a nurse advocate, a doctor who advocates for me. And pre and post Lyme disease, I was using this resource to try to get help. And post Lyme disease, what the nurse advocate and her bosses, only conclusion they came to, and she literally said this to me. She said, "Mr. Riddle, you're not crazy." And she said, "We have never encountered anything like this phenomenon in our careers. We have no idea what is happening with medicine, why they're not helping people, why they've blocked the proper CDC recommended care for neurological Lyme disease in your area." Like, they literally, and these are medical professionals employed through the Apple Corporation who are telling me this. So you tell me there's not something going on. So don't listen to your doctor if they tell you Lyme disease isn't prevalent in the area. If you hike, if you've spent any time outdoors and you're having brain fog, fatigue, joint pain, fevers, a weird rash, Bell's palsy, any of these things, get a Lyme disease test. And I'm not saying don't go to a holistic doctor, go to Quest Labs, go somewhere. It's easy. It's not like I think I have Lyme disease. The bacteria will be in your body, and it's not some mystery disease. It's a measurable thing. It's bacteria. And then if you do test positive for Lyme disease, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I'm just, it's so disappointing and frightening that we could live in an area that is so costly. Everything's a cost of premium around here, and yet the healthcare and the local government and something so basic being protected from something that is common knowledge at this point, and now we have statistics thanks to Quest Labs, is being completely ignored, and we're being misinformed, and our lives, your kids' lives, your family lives, your neighbors' lives are literally in danger because, yes, Lyme disease can kill you or debilitate you to the point that you won't want to live. Trust me on this one. Okay, I hope this helps somebody. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'm very responsible about responding to comments. Bye.